Welcome to the future. That's what I thought nearly 3 years ago when Maria Finkelmeier, our keynote speaker, and I first met. And I'd like to give a big shout out to CODAWorks and to Mad Arts, the two organizations that brought us together. We were both artists chosen to be part of the CODA-made Phygital Cities of the Future project. And in meeting Maria and following her work over the next 3 years, I found that the work that both of our studios was doing was in parallel in some ways. Our recent works involve rhythm, music, participation, but I always feel I'm about a half a beat behind in the musical half a beat behind Maria Finkelmeier and her studio in the evolving musical composition that is public art. And I wanted to sum up the three ways in which I think her work and practice and herself, the dynamo that is Maria Finkelmeier, embodies the future directions of public art. One of those is incredibly deep community engagement. Not only is Maria an artist who creates works that embrace the audience, involve the audience, often involving other collaborators, but she's also an educator and works deeply with the public. The second is she uses amazing technology in her work, but it's the art that's driving the technology, not the other way around. And that gives it legs. That means that a decade from now, you'll look back on her work and not be able to pinpoint exactly when it was done, because it's driven by art and by the human spirit. It's expansive work that makes human lives better, to grab two phrases from earlier today. The third is that she includes many of the senses and modalities that make us human, but beautifully integrates them. Her work is not only visual, it involves rhythm, it involves sound, it involves participation, and a spatial awareness, and they're all perfectly aligned. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce to you Maria Finkelmeier.
Hello, everyone. We're almost to lunch. How excited are we, right? My name is Maria Finkelmeier. I'm really excited to be here and to get to know each one of you. And I've entitled my keynote speech, "What's Your Superpower?" So as I kind of take you through my own practice, my journey, which has been very winding, I want you to actually reflect on your own story, your own skills, your own histories. What do you need to scream loudly because it's so special to you that it drives what can be next, right? Because we all have some sort of superpower. It might be buried, but I hope by the end of this presentation or after your lunch conversations, you'll feel really empowered to share that superpower. So, okay, it's gonna play. Fantastic. This is me. Yeah. I have a master's degree in percussion performance from the Eastman School of Music, and really exciting for me, I've played at Symphony Hall next door. I'm a native Cincinnatian. I was in the Cincinnati Youth Symphony. Yay, yes, Cincinnati! So fun to come back. I'm based in Boston, Massachusetts now, but I've had the honor to play throughout the world. I've played with Yo-Yo Ma and the Silk Road Ensemble, the Knights. I played with Steve Gadd. I've been all over the world hitting stuff, which has been really, really, really fun. However, I had always felt that, I was curious about what could be next, what could be more. You know, I love this space. This feels like very at home to me, right? A nice proscenium, a nice stage, a nice sound system. But I was always curious what makes people come through the doors. You know, you buy a ticket, you come, you sit. Sometimes you have a subscription. And in the symphonic world, in the orchestral world, and in chamber music, we're always questioning, why are people coming in? Who are they? And how can we embrace as many superpowers, personalities, people as possible? How can we make spaces accessible? And I said, okay, look, that's a cool question, but how about we bring our art out, right? And that's what you all do so beautifully, and why I'm so excited to be considered a public artist now. So early in my career, I was like, okay, break down the walls. How do we do that? And it looked a lot like running around parks and producing music. Very sweaty, very boots on the ground. One of my first projects was I took a small-sized school bus and had my graffiti artist friend, Cedric Douglas, paint it. We called it the Beat Bus. I put Ableton Live, I put sensors on buckets, and we took electronic buckets to thousands of city school kids around Boston. And it really gave me a sense of the city, a sense of play, and the sense of like people are hungry to hold sticks. They're hungry for music. They're hungry to bring music to where they are. I threw 50 brass players in the middle of Fujiko Nakaya's Fog by Flow installation and had them kind of bring the fog and the cloud and the mist to life through immersive, wait, where's Brendan? Taking immersive out, expansive, no. Through this experience, and so I was really excited to dabble, to say, all right, we're bringing live human music into this space. All right, so that was the beginning of the story of the exploration. It was sweaty, it was hard. I know a lot of us work in city planning, work in festivals, work in organization. You know that like, you're in the weeds is a real challenge, but it allowed me to, if we can go back one. I was gentle with the clicker. There we go. It got the attention of what now is one of my closest friends in the technology art world, Jeff Grants. And he called and said, Maria, I see what you're doing. I'm trying to do some similar stuff. And also shout out to Illuminous because they're doing a festival this weekend in Boston. But this was their second festival, and he said, hey, does anyone know what this is? Does anyone know what this is? I got yeses, I got a woo. What is it? It's Fenway Park, yes! So as you know, new to Boston, that was very exciting. Like, all right, yes, what can we do at Fenway Park? And my anticipation in approaching this structure was like, great, I see these little bays. I'll put some musicians in each of these bays, and we'll do kind of like I was thinking like Act 1, Act 2, Act 3, and people would walk down the street, which actually, as I say it now, is still a very good idea. However, it is not what happened when I approached this space with my musical mind. What happened was I saw large, steel, hollow beams. And if you're a percussionist, you go, oh yeah, I'm gonna hit that, and it's gonna sound good. And it really sounded good. So I said, hey Jeff, can you play that, Christian? Thank you. Hey Jeff, can I hit it? And luckily, Linda and John Henry, the owners of the Red Sox, were the sponsors of the festival, and they said yes. And they gave us 7 a.m. on Sundays to go test it out, which was wonderful for my art self. I got up early, I did it. But what we found, I brought on a bunch of collaborators, is that each beam had a pitch. There was tones on the upper beams, which were more solid steel. And what we got to do was essentially map it like it was a drum set. I got to get 5 other composers to write music for Fenway Park specifically, and we mounted it like a bandaloop or like a stomp, and we played the music live for about 30,000 people. Yeah, I got a woo, guys. I love the woos. I love it. You are so, so kind. I know Sam's here. Sam was a projection artist on this project. It was really a fulfilling collaboration all around. And it was this first time that I really sat back and understood the connection between this intensive training I've gone through. And it's different in a room full of you wonderful minds, but it also it was valid, right? It was powerful because I was able to approach the structure with a very niche understanding of how the world works. So essentially, I saw this potential in the building that I know a lot of my colleagues might not have seen. And I kind of sat on that for a little bit, and then I kind of let it emerge over time, and I let it kind of simmer. And then I got introduced to you fine folks, and I got a little bit more curious about technology and projection based on that experience. And I started to investigate. So fast forward a few years, I had an opportunity to put in a proposal to transform this space. Does anyone know what this space is by any chance? Oh, close. It is Boston's version of it. Say that again. It's the Hatch Shell in Boston. So if you've ever watched the Boston Pops and Keith Lockhart and everybody doing their thing, it's here. And so in Boston, this is a place on the 4th of July, you're on foot, everybody's there, thousands of people on bridges, we're watching the Pops, you're watching from rooftops, you're doing all this thing. And so it's this place that has a lot of kind of deep connection to Bostonians. And When I was thinking about making this proposal, which the ask was to illuminate it, and this was in 2020, so it was during the pandemic, and they wanted a winter illumination. And they said anything from thousands of twinkly lights to projection. And I was like, that's really wide, and what would with my musician's brain, how am I gonna approach this? Well, this is me performing in the Hatch Shell this summer, actually. I was like, excuse me, can you play that one, Christian? Thanks. This is a perspective from a percussionist playing at the Hatch Shell with the Landmarks Orchestra this summer. So this is the view I have. I see string players on violins and cellos and basses. I'm kind of always mounted up top playing snare drums, bass drums, triangle, tambourine, all of these things. And I kind of started to think about, what is this vantage point that the shell has always seen, but that an audience has never seen, right? I see it all the time. I see bows moving, I see circles, and I see squares. So what I pitched was that I would create an original composition, we can go to the next slide, that would green screen musicians playing. And we would take those shapes and project them onto the shell. And I was honored to win the commission, but this was also deep in the pandemic where it was very hard to work. So you see us in masks, you see very few people in the room, a lot of people working satellite, but essentially I wrote a piece of music. My partner and I, Steph, performed it on marimba and vibraphone. We built weatherproof boxes for 3 projectors donated by Epson, and we illuminated the shell for 4 weeks with hands, with these circles of drums. The call was to bring people together, to really offer this collective experience, and this was then staged in January 2021, so there was nothing else to do. So 30 to 40,000 is our estimate of people came out over 4 weeks to come see this experience. And again, I feel that by embracing my superpower, next slide please, that I was able to present an experience that was definitely tech heavy. I would say about 70% of our work with MF Dynamics behind the scene was like, okay, old amphitheater. We need, at least 4 circuits. We need the electrician to meet us. I'm meeting with the state troopers to talk about security. All of the things we know is the challenge. That was 75% of it, but the 25% that became the art making, so deeply rooted in music making, the human touch on a musical instrument, I think translated in a way I can't really describe, I can only try to describe, but I think that connection and how the human was expressed through the technology really spoke to a lot of people. And to, reflect also on the previous panel, it's when someone comes up to you and says, hey, that meant something to me. That's when we kind of feel that moment of success, right? And I'll just tell you a little story here, because this was the moment I was like, okay, Maria, you're doing something okay. I have a kindergartner. If anyone has young kids, social circles within parents and kindergartners is it's pretty anxiety driven if you ask me, but you're thrown into places, you're kind of, okay, you have to converse with other adults, but you're also trying to make sure your kid's not doing crazy things. Anyway, but a mom comes up and we're chatting and she goes, oh, what do you do? And that's a hard question. Who feels like that's a hard question sometimes? Because we wear a million hats. So I'm like, which one are you gonna choose? All right, so I was like, oh, I'm a musician and an artist, and I do a lot of illuminations and a lot of live performance, and we just got to chatting, and a minute in, she stepped back and she goes, I know you. And I was like, cool, that's also a little scary. Tell me more. And she goes, you did the Hatch Shell. I've looked at your website, I know you. And I was like, what are you talking about? And what I realize is when we create these ephemeral, these moments that transform our public spaces, right? That make it awe-inspiring. Blink is going to blow the minds of millions of people over the next 4 days, and they're going to come back to the city and they're going to say, do you remember when? And what I realized in that moment with this mom, who is now a friend, because I was very flattered, let me tell you what, what I realized is I created a special moment for her and her family to venture out, and they talk about it, because they physically got to go somewhere, experience something that isn't there every day. Yeah. So, yay. I'm going a lot quicker than I thought, so we are gonna have time for questions, I think. So my individual superpower, again, has been that percussion work, translating and being curious about technologies and kind of trying to amplify communities and collective experiences through my music and through technology. But what I believe our collective superpower is in this room is that we value and we understand the power and the necessity of partnerships, right, and building teams. And I think I learned this early on. I was in marching band here, 30 minutes north of Cincinnati, 250 people. I was the snare drummer that went clack, clack, right? I brought the marching band on the field, but I realized that yes, I might be leading them, but success only exists when 250 people play in sync, right? When they play together, when horns are up, right? If you're on the stage, right, and Dudamel is waving his arms, it only works if everyone's there in that moment. And I think that translates so powerfully to the public space, right? Because we know we need fabricators, we need creative directors, we need artists, we need technicians, we need city government workers, we need philanthropists. The teams that we need to do this work, whew, they're massive. And we need to conduct them like we would conduct a symphony. So the last kind of project I'd like to share with you is something that is deeply rooted in the CODA community. And a few years ago, when I was giving a short artist talk, I ended it with the statement, and I really want my mallets to be paintbrushes. And there was a person in the audience named Mark, and he's like, I want to help you with that. And CODA said, I want to help you with that. And what it was, right? It was beautiful. It was this moment of vulnerability for me to saying, this is what I'm thinking about. I have no idea how to do it. And what has emerged over the last few years is the foundation of my practice right now, which is motion capture use in musical performance to articulate and discuss the nuance of human touch in music in a space, but express it in a way that brings awe and in a way that it uses advanced technologies that can kind of move and be reinterpreted with each different project. So if you can go to the next slide. So I just really enjoyed my work with Mad Lab Studios and Mad Arts and CodaMade, and essentially had this new framework for what I could do. And I've taken that back to Boston, playing multiple festivals, essentially tracking my movement. So now we use a Kinect camera in Unreal Engine, and there's a blueprint that kind of generates these webs. And each web is different based on how I feel that day. How loud am I playing? How slow am I playing? How fast am I playing? And it's been really, it is starting to kind of nod to my goal, right? Which is to bring someone so deeply into a moment that they feel that they're letting go of everything else. And people watch the webs grow, they listen to me play, and hopefully they're thinking about their own lives at the same time. This work is expanding. I'm creating new animations that kind of can represent that musical moment. And my goal as a professor at the Berklee College of Music is to start to work with students for them to talk about how their musical touch is actually very unique to them. And can we visualize it? Can we bring audiences into concerts, into public art in more kind of deep ways? And again, to kind of nod to the partnerships, I had some beautiful conversations last night about printing, about 3D sculpting, about how I can kind of even elevate this project even larger, which is my reminder to you to keep talking about what you're doing, right? Don't keep it in to feel like it has to be a secret, because the more you talk about it, the more you're gonna find inspiration from people in adjacent industries with other superpowers that are gonna elevate that idea even deeper. So thank you to Gavin and Roger, because we had a nice little let's hack the project. I really appreciated it. Now, being invited to be a keynote speaker kind of nods that I have my shit together, I guess, which I really appreciate. But I think I'm just at the beginning of this journey that is the infusion of music, technology, and public space. Over the past year, I've projected live performance onto Boston City Hall, which was really fun. Brutalist architecture, kind of animated through music performance. I'm investigating spatial audio, using AI in ways that cause reflection and interrogation. And I have a touring project called Frequencies that remixes the sights and sounds of a community and projects them in a big way, so we find joy. So I'm trying to find as many nodes as possible, right, to try to answer the questions, right? And the questions are, who is this for and why? Right? Fundamentally, that's where I began, and that's where I will continue to go. Now I'm just accessing my superpower, but also accessing these new networks and these new opportunities, these new realizations of what can be possible. So, I did talk really fast, but I'm okay with it because we're also hungry. But I'm going to turn it back to you, okay? Thank you for listening to those few projects. And I mean, I'm just completely inspired. Oh, there's 5. Okay, that's good. That's perfect. There's 5 minutes for questions. That's great. I'm doing well this year. Oh, that's my cute little, wait, we'll stay here. Yeah, I know, right? Oh, yeah, oh, okay. Okay, we'll be done. All right, cool. Thank you, everybody. Awesome, I see your hand. Hi. I would love to answer. I don't know Dudamel. I wish I did. I've not played LA. Well, now he's in New York. Oh, okay. Thank you. Oh. Yes, this is what I'm talking about. You know, that's so... Yes, you know what? I will pull them up on my laptop back. You know, I was trying to be like really smooth and I'm gonna talk over my slides and da-da-da, and then I was like, oh, people are gonna wanna hear stuff, aren't they? But I took out the audio because I didn't know what room I'd be in. You know, you don't know the sound system, so I'm very conscious of that. But yes, it sounds really good. And that's all I can say. But I have videos, yes. I can show you videos, right? Just meet me back here and I'll show everybody videos, yeah. Yes, thank you for asking. I mean, if you imagine, let's see if I can try to paint a picture if we close our eyes, like, goom. Go, 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 go. Like, so good. Like, was that good? You got, that was great, right? Master's degree, thank you. Awesome. Any other questions or comments, or tell me how you're feeling? Yes, hi. Mm-hmm. Yes. Oh, yes. So I feel like this is a really great question. So the question is, you know, when you're working with sound, how are communities tolerating it? Is that a consideration? And essentially, I'm going to put words in your mouth, but like, how do I navigate that? For the Hatch Shell, so for the amphitheater, it was required that there was no sound. So my pitch was like, I didn't think I was gonna win the proposal because I was like, it's based in sound, but what I pitched is that would be live streamed. And then I also talked about our collective, but our individual experience in connection with the pandemic. So people could come with earbuds if they felt that they wanted to be away from other groups of people. What happened is everybody streamed on their iPhones. Some people brought their own speakers. And then you actually would walk through the crowd and you would hear the music kind of almost in a very DIY spatial way. But I do think a lot about where I'm where I am. So I'm working on a commission for a hotel right now to illuminate their building for their 100th. And they're very excited about my connection to music, but we just know that we can't pump music out. There's also a doorman, and you're like, you don't want to hear the same thing on repeat for 3 weeks. Like that, you just have to be respectful. So we're gonna call it the wishing tree, and they're gonna walk by and they're gonna have like a nice marimba and vibraphone, like as the tree illuminates, and then the idea is that what are you wishing for the next 100 years to leave behind? Because the hotel has been around as a family-owned hotel for the past 100 years. So it's music, but it's only going to be activated when someone's there and they can engage with it. Yeah. 2 minutes. Do we have 1 or 2 more questions? Yes, hi. Yeah, that's a great question. So what am I feeling from observers to help me further develop my work because it is so new? I think there's this nuance when you're working with, when you're creating for people, right? And they want to understand what's going on, but they also want to be surprised, right? So there's this beautiful, and I think we all kind of know this in the museum space, in the interaction space, and someone used the word messy, but also with technology, it's like you want them to kind of question what it is, but also feel empowered, right, to understand. So what I'm finding right now with my live performance and making the visuals is that I get a lot of questions of like, I don't understand exactly what's happening, right? And they kind of They want a little bit more. And I really respect that because I'm excited. I'm like, the web and my motion and every line is created by me. And they're like, cool. So what I'm doing now, and I just got a text right before this, was that from my Supritha, who's working on the animations, is we're going to start to put an avatar in the projections. And we're going to start to use various camera angles so you can go in the webs as they're coming, and then you can see how the human body is making the web itself. And then also we're exploring some other visualizations that could kind of expand narrative. And I've written music. I've just recorded an album called Former Self. It's 8 pieces written to my former self about cautionary tales, kind of words of excitement. So each of the pieces that I'll now perform have a story to them, which they didn't before, because people want that. They want the story. They want to kind of know what's going on, but also be surprised. So that's kind of where I am right now with, we've hacked a bit of the how-to, but now we really need to touch people emotionally. Yeah. I got a stop sign, so I'm going to stop. Thanks, everybody. I appreciate you.
Thank you, Maria.